Welcome to Breakfreeradio, where the sky is not the limit.
It's just the beginning. Welcome to another episode of Money Talks here on Breakfreeradio. This is your opportunity to learn from the best of the best in the legal, accounting, and investment domains to further your financial dreams. Remember, these are discussions regarding the many aspects of money. Always seek professional advice pertinent to your specific financial goals. Now, on with the show. Hello, everybody. Bob Adams here, and welcome to another episode of Breakfreeradio and our Money Talks episode. Today's going to be a bit different because I'm playing Lone Ranger. The topics that I have to discuss, actually, I'm probably the best one to listen to on. For those of you who don't know, I've been doing taxes for about 31 years. My specialty has been home-based businesses or small businesses. I was one of the pioneers in electronic filing many years ago, and the IRS used to have me travel and speak all over the United States in different regions and districts and locales, and I was very much into it. And at one time I had a very large tax practice. And then I moved from there to just a particular one because I found that I really just like focusing on home-based businesses, because inside that space I could create tax strategies. And strategy is something I really enjoy a lot. And people who have listened to me or have become familiar with SimTrade Pro realize that's what I'm doing in that same space. I'm helping people with strategies as far as their hopes for the future, their plans for the future. And we're giving them options and tools that are absolutely amazing. But we'll talk about that more later on, because today's topic is taxes. But now you know about my background and where I come from. So that may add a little more, maybe validity to what I'm going to share. First of all, today is the 28th of March. I'm a little bit late to get this particular recorded because I was going to have Tony on, but he's been so busy with his new event schedule, we haven't had a chance to get together this week. So we'll plan on something later on and present some other information. We've got some interesting topics coming up. I know that you'll enjoy them. The one that we did on the commodity of time really was a big hit, as was the one we talked about, the Federal Reserve. And I know we've got other topics we're going to discuss that will be just as valuable. But today I want to remind everybody that the deadline is April 15th, coming up here shortly. If you already filed your tax returns, that's great. If you haven't filed them yet, just mark this thing in your mind. Now, a lot of people look at the idea, okay, do I need to file an extension? So I want to elaborate on that just for a moment. Extensions have but one purpose, is to identify to the IRS your intention to file a tax return regarding the previous year. Extensions are due by the due date. So in this particular case, on your individual return, it would be needs to be filed prior to April 15th. Now, all it does when you file that extension is eliminate a $50 penalty for not filing an extension or filing in a timely manner. It does not negate the penalties and interest for not prepaying any anticipated balances due. Now, I tell you that so that if you anticipate that you're going to owe, filing the extension does not take the harm out of your situation. You're still going to have to file some money with that particular extension if you want to avoid any additional penalties or interest. Now, what about those of us who do not have any kind of a balance due? All right, well, filing an extension really isn't necessary. The IRS isn't going to condemn you and attach a $50 penalty if your return shows you have a refund coming, because they owe you money instead of you owing them. So if you're pretty sure you're not going to owe, don't worry about that April 15th deadline. If you are in doubt, file the extension. Now, in my particular tax practice, I file extensions on everybody on April 1st, just to make sure they're all covered just in case. Now, I may not know if they have a balance due or not, but at least I got that $50 penalty out of the way in case they do. So I would really take a look at that. Something else, too, that most people don't realize. Just because your tax return's been done once does not mean that it's written in stone. Tax returns are regrettably more subjective than they are objective. It would be nice if it was objective, but everybody's life is different. And so defining the absolute parameters that fit for everybody is an impossibility. And tax preparers or individuals who file their own tax returns may have a particular perspective of what the correct laws or applications of strategies would be available to these individuals or yourself. And sometimes those are erroneous. There's always changing in the laws every year, and if you're not current with that stuff, it can mess you up. So what I'm sharing you this for is to let you know that if you have a prior filed tax return, and it doesn't matter what year it is, if you had a tax liability that you are still paying on, you may want to consider having a free review. Now, I'm telling you, we have free reviews available for everybody, a free 3-year review in particular, but if you have a tax liability that's coming from previous years, it would not hurt to have those tax returns looked at by a professional to see if there's any way that there could be an amendment done to negate or at least greatly reduce that tax liability. It never hurts to get a second opinion. Now, something else most people are not aware of is that 70% average Americans overpay their taxes. Now, they say, oh, I chose easy. I just filed my W-2s and sent it in and go from there. They didn't realize that they could have taken something for education. They could have taken something for health care. They could have taken something for a whole bunch of other items, which they didn't do. And on the average, we can usually find about $2,000 a year. So my invitation to you is that after you have filed your tax returns, or if you have not even filed your tax returns yet, highly recommend that you have a free 3-year review. It doesn't cost anything to have your information sent in. We have a staff of CPAs who are really good at what they do, who can take the time to review those circumstances. Now, I'll tell you right now, ahead of time, between now and April 15th, I can tell you, they're not going to look. They haven't got time. However, I would definitely contact them and get yourself set up to send the information in to get that done. It's extremely important that you do. Now, there's an interview that I did earlier on Break Free Radio with Hal Rosen, CPA, and in that he also gave his email address and contact information. By far, the best source I've found so far to give you a great free 3-year review, and they are always current on what's going on. They've always done a great job for everybody that goes to them. I would have you go listen to that particular interview. It'll be of great value to you. And if you have questions, you can call me at 541-329-2130, and I'll be glad to send you the direction you need to go. The other cool part is that if you have your free 3-year review done, and the last 3 years show that there was additional refunds, then you can amend those and get the refunds plus interest, both federal and state. So yeah, I would definitely take the time to send the tax return, have a free 3-year review done just to see what the possibilities are and go from there. Because if you're in that 70% realm of people who actually have additional refunds coming to you, why not get it? After all, it is your money and not the IRS's. It's yours. So put it back in your pocket and put it to work. And of course, we've got ways for you to invest that would be extremely beneficial, but that's for another topic. Now, let's say, for example, you haven't filed in years. You haven't filed in years, and you keep getting these nasty letters from the IRS, and you see them, and you're afraid to open them, and you throw them in the garbage, and you keep going that direction. Well, all you're doing is sinking down into a hole that could be extremely ugly. Filing those back tax returns isn't as hard as you think it is. Now, for most tax professionals, we simply send a form into the IRS. They give us the information that they have available for those particular years. You can create the return, and then they solicit from you the information that's needed to complete the tax return. I can't tell you how many people I've done tax returns for that hadn't filed in 8, 9, 10 years, and they would have had refunds all those years. But they negated it because they simply didn't want to do it. They were afraid to do it. They were lazy. Whatever their reason was, they didn't do them. Filing those back tax returns is of extreme value. Extreme value. So I highly recommend you take a look. If you've got yourself in a situation where you haven't filed in a while, call me, 541-329-2130. And if you have an IRS issue, here's something else that I find really fascinating. I've been working IRS issues for 30 years. And I've learned you get a lot more done with sugar than you ever will with vinegar. And if you honestly take a look at an issue and have somebody who can work with individuals like our professionals that we have and can negate with them or represent you in a way that's going to be a winning manner, yes, you definitely want to do that. Don't let the IRS come in and just take what you have and or put you in a position that's going to compromise your future plans, your retirement, your family's income. It isn't worth it. It just isn't worth it. Now, a lot of people get belligerent about the IRS. I've seen those too, and they've all gone to jail so far. I recommend just simply, if you've got an issue, call. Let's see if we can do something about it and get it cleaned up. Those are important. Now, something else that I see a lot of that people like to be resistant to is Obamacare. Now, whether you voted for him, didn't vote for him, like Obamacare, don't like Obamacare, it doesn't really matter. It's kind of like, when we had the rules imposed about wearing seat belts. Congratulations. Now you wear a seat belt, and if you don't, you get fined. Well, it's the same thing here. Obamacare was instituted simply to be able to apply and give adequate health care coverage to everybody. Now, did it work? That's still up for discovery in the future years. We know that we've seen, in particular, premiums have just gone through the roof, and people who could barely afford it in the past can't afford it at all, or they're finding that it's just a program that needs to be either axed or cleaned or whatever. With the upcoming politics and the elections coming up, who knows what's going to happen with this for the future? Doesn't matter. What matters is right now. If you did get your health insurance and you're paying it through the marketplace, you will receive from the government a 1095B. I cannot emphasize how important this is that you give your tax preparer this form. If you're doing your tax return on your own, make sure you put the information in. Because in most cases where you've had your premium supplemented, and if your income has not become excessive, there is the potential of a valuable refund coming out of them. I've had a lot of people that didn't give them to me, didn't say they had them. We filed the returns. Lo and behold, the IRS comes back and says, hey, you didn't file your 1095B. They hold up their refund until they get it done. In almost every case, there's been additional refunds coming. So make sure you have that 1095B. It's really important. Now, if you did not use the marketplace or you have coverage from your work, be sure to tell your preparer anyway, so we can indicate on there that you did have health coverage. If you did not have health insurance, coverage, then there's going to be a penalty associated to it. Usually, it's going to be the same amount of penalty as would have been applicable for taking the lowest level of health insurance premium requirements for that year. So just be aware. Either you pay it or you're going to pay it. Either way, you're going to pay it. All right, just acknowledge that's just what it looks like, and here we go. Now, if your income's low enough, you won't be penalized. All right, you simply didn't have anything there for them to look at. It's not going to make any difference at all. All right, so just be aware that you do need to tell your preparer, though, because otherwise it will assess that penalty, which can greatly affect your taxes and your refunds or the balance dues. Now, also, any additional medical expenses that were not covered by your medical health insurance coverage is going to be listed on Schedule A. Now, regrettably, that changed from a 7.5% to a 10% haircut a couple of years ago, meaning that you're not getting any deductions for it unless you can exceed the standard deductions, and it has to be more than 10% of what you've paid out in medical expenses. There are ways, if you have a business, of making those medical expenses 100% deductible. If you have a home-based business, small business, whatever, and a family, call me. I can show you some ways that'll work, and it'll help you immensely. All right, one more thing. If you are a stock market investor, your broker will send you a 1099B and or an 8949 form. The 8949 form and the 1099B, they are all represented and shifted through your Schedule D on your tax return. Now, maybe that sounds like overwhelming, but I can tell you right now, those two forms are so valuable. If you do not report them or include them in the information, the IRS is going to file your tax return, and 2 years back later you're going to hear, hey, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. And it can be all kinds of penalties and problems associated to it, or you may not have even gotten a break that you deserve to have by not reporting losses that were there. So make sure you have your 1099Bs or 8949 available to go to them. Now, these are provided by your broker. Now, if you're an active trader, you may want to consider investigating trader tax status, also abbreviated as TTS. Now, this is a variable. It's not going to be applicable to probably 90% of the people that are out there. But if you are a very active trader, and if you have substantial losses of any kind, instead of being limited to that $3,000 per year capital gains, you can change your status and be able to write those all off and take great advantage to it, and you can turn it on, turn it off on various years. It is an option that is now still being closely scrutinized by the IRS. There's usually an entity requirement like an S corporation to make it flow perfectly. And within that environment, you can still add on other benefits like health care or retirement benefits into that S corporation. There's a lot of great strategies that are involved in those particular arenas. However, in order to make sure you qualify for that, contact me and we will find out for sure and go from there. Finally, if you have a small or home-based business, please take the moment to download my What Counts program. Now, if you already have an accounting system that's set in place and it's working great for you, and I don't care what it is, but if it works for you and you're able to get adequate reports to give your preparer or to be able to populate what you need in your own Schedule C, then that's great. But I am finding that most people, when they step into having a home-based business, do not realize the value of keeping a current accounting system running. And they may run out and buy a over-the-counter accounting system at a substantial amount or monthly fees, and it's like buying a shotgun to shoot a mosquito. You don't need it. This program that I have is called What Counts. I wrote it. I haven't been in the business for 31 years. I've written multiple programs. I have written and done CDs. I've traveled, like I said, on behalf of the IRS. I know this particular arena extremely well. I know what strategies are applicable. And I have built those strategies into this What Counts program. And it's free. You can get that by simply going to my www.breakfreeradio.com and download What Counts. Now, it's a spreadsheet program which runs extremely well in Excel. If you do not have a spreadsheet program, you can download a program there called Kingsoft. The links are available. In Kingsoft, essentially, it's the same thing as in Excel. It's just not quite as elaborated. The other advantage to using What Counts is I have built-in strategies that will cover 90% of the most applicable deductions you can use in a home-based business. Besides being able to record your profit and loss, you're also going to be able to record your mileage and business use of the home, 100% medical write-offs, and hiring the kids. I mean, everyone that has downloaded and used it always says the same thing. It's so easy. And I can promise you, if you do utilize it, you'll find yourself in the habit of beginning to rely on it. You'll know exactly where you're at in your business at all times. And you prepare, you just have one little thing you print out, and they've got everything they need. Everything they need. It is really awesome. So folks, that's free. You can go to breakfreeradio.com and download it. It's called What Counts. Finally, an update on Tony. They just finished up with their event that they did in Denver, which was last Saturday. Today is Monday. His upcoming events include Scottsdale on April 2nd, which will be this coming Saturday. Chicago on April 16th, which will be the following Saturday. New Jersey on April 23rd, which obviously is the following weekend. And finally, for the month of April, San Diego, so April 30th. Now, you can go in and get notices about all the things that Tony's doing, get the event locations, timing, all that kind of stuff by going to Tony's blog site. His blog site is http://breitling.blogspot.nl. I'll repeat that one more time. Breitling Currencies, Breitling, currency, currency.blogspot. If you research it out there on Google, you'll find it. Tie into that. The very first page is going to ask an option to put in your name and your email address so he can send notices out to you to keep you abreast of his updates that he's doing out there. Also, if you do elect to go to these events, and my gosh, I highly encourage you to go. They are phenomenal events. There's so much there to see and learn that it's just like, I went a year ago, I was dumbfounded. And everybody I talked to that actually takes the time to go, sit, listen, and learn comes out with the same thing. They're dumbfounded. When Tony keeps saying, here's an option that you're going to have available to you, you'll never have to worry about money again, I know what he's talking about, and he's absolutely right. It will work. So my invitation to you is to go to those. In order to attend them, you'll need to send Tony a notice that you're going to go. And the email address you send that to is breitling@gmail.com. Breitling, Breitling events, events, @gmail.com. In there, you want to include which one you're planning on attending, your name, and obviously your email address will show up there, and he'll add you to his database, which will keep you current of what's going on. So, folks, there you have it. That's our tax update. We're coming, like I said, close to the end of the season at this point in time. We will be doing another interview shortly with Tony. I know we have a lot of different topics that people are asking about, and they're always enjoyable discussions. So for now, thank you very much for listening. If you haven't got your taxes done, go get them done. If you have other questions about them, give me a call at 541-329-2130, and we'll see you next week. There now, wasn't that fun? Thank you for listening to Breakfree Radio's Money Talks. Each week we bring you timely and valuable information regarding the many aspects of our financial world. For the very best of information regarding retirement, legal, accounting, and investment options, be sure to check out www.simtradepro.com. With a wealth of professional advisors, financial strategies, and access to the greatest investment tools ever created, SimTrade Pro is the real go-to source for the very best of the best. So until next week, keep smiling and farewell for now.